So, good afternoon. Guys, thank you for accompanying us today in this talk. We are going to be listening to Adrianna Benavides. She works at the Contemporary Arts Museum, Houston, and she's going to be talking about different artists and different mediums and different ideas for you to work during your project. As you know, you're working in this process with your high school, and this is also part of the Museo Hoy sessions that we are having all this month. So thank you to the U.S. Consulate for these talks and for providing the environment to develop these sessions. And without further ado, I leave it to Adriana. Just a quick reminder in Spanish, por favor mantengan sus micrófonos apagados y si tienen alguna pregunta pueden ponerla en el chat para revisarla al final. So, thank you. Adriana, if you want to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be gathered here with you all. I'm happy to answer any and all questions that y'all may have about the artwork that we'll be presenting today. And kind of, I just want to find out how everybody's feeling. I don't know if we can drop emojis into the chat or if anybody wants to turn their sound on and just let me know how you're feeling today. I'm fine, I think. It's kind of weird that we've been, virtual for so long, but right, this is so rad that I'm able to be here in your classroom because we are virtual. So there are those positive things about the time that we're living in. Does anybody want to share how they're feeling, either in the chat or I don't know if y'all can post an emoji?
Oye, pues es en inglés, qué hueva, ¿verdad? Puta, no sabías, sabes que no. No sé, fíjate, déjame ponerle aquí un mensaje.
All right. Yay, so we got some finds. It's always, good to just check in to see how we're feeling, especially since artwork can help us to express our feelings. And I'm going to talk about 5 different artists and share with you guys just a little bit about the museum. The first picture you saw was artists, some dancers that were performing in our museum. Here you're seeing my colleague Yet giving a tour. So kind of, a little image of what tours used to look like. And this is in a group show. We're gonna go over these 5 artists. We'll take a little stretch break if we have the time. And then at the very end, we can brainstorm some ideas together. And then I can answer any and all your questions. Yeah, so first, let's go ahead and establish, oh, there's me and my contact information. So if you have an email or a question, I also included here. Oh, on the bottom here is our Instagram. So that's always cool to check out. Our Twitter, we have a Facebook, and then we also have YouTube, which has lots of videos. And I'll talk more about our YouTube, and we will be watching some videos from our YouTube channel. But I first wanted to just let you know that I work with Teen Council. So I work with teenagers every Tuesday. They're staff members of the museum. And for us to have really good meetings, we create community agreements. So, that can be a variety of what's on this list. So I really want to encourage us to use the chat if we can. So if you have questions, and maybe Kenya, if you can help me with following along with what's in the chat. If there's a question, feel free to interrupt me. If someone wants to turn their camera on and turn their phone, turn their sound on and ask me a question, or just anything. We are creating the structure for our tour, right? We're here in all of this together in the same way that if you were at the museum and something caught let's see, caught Maria's eye, then we'll go ahead and be like, okay, Maria, we'll go look and talk about that piece, right? So we can have it flow that way. Feel free to have your camera on or off. And these are kind of, all rules that you create that make your meeting a little bit better. So I do suggest just staying muted while I'm talking, just so that it's clear communication. And then, yeah, I just really encourage y'all to ask questions and feel free to speak. We'll just also try to speak one at a time, right? Just so that we can have a really good flow and are respectful. And these are some of my students here from Teen Council. So you can see that they're in their little Zoom boxes because we're all meeting on Zoom lately as well. The museum is not open right now. We are closed to the public, and this is the front yard of our museum. It's this big silver building. I don't know if anybody's been to the museum. Has anybody been to Texas in this group? If you have, you can just say, yes, you've been to Texas in the chat. We are in Houston, Texas, which is very close to the southern region of Texas. So we're southeast. And what's really unique about the museum, the Contemporary Arts Museum, is that we show contemporary art, but we do not collect contemporary art. And if you don't know what collect means, it means that we don't buy artwork and store it. Instead, we're always changing and rotating our exhibitions. So you can see all kinds of different artwork just in 1 year at the museum. And what's really cool about that is that then all kinds of students can find interest and find something that they really like. And so the artists that I'm presenting to you guys today kind of show that variety of medium, of gender of the artists, of the themes that the artists use, and then also how they create their work. All of the artists we're talking about are American born. And so you're kind of getting into how they even talk about things happening in America and then things also happening internationally. Some of the artists are tackling those kind of commentary through contemporary art. And I assume everybody here is an artist in some way. So again, feel free to stop me if you have any questions about anything. And I love the most about the museum is that we're free, so gratis. We are a free museum, and that is really important because then so many people can come to the museum and there's not that barrier of not having money to be able to come and see the artwork. And so we also do like free activities. So at the very end, I'll share with y'all some of the virtual activities that we've created since March. So then let's get right into our first artist that we're going to talk about. Some of these artists, I do have their photo here. You can see this is Robert Hodge. We're going to kind of start central and move out. So he's from Houston, Texas. Again, that's where the museum is located. Robert Hodge went to a high school that was specifically for artwork. So Houston Performing Arts School is pretty well known here. And our artist is not only a visual artist, but also a musician. So I want you to think about how, when we look at his artwork next, on how you see that tied to his to music and his artwork. Right now, he's currently displayed in our show, Slowed and Throwed. And there are videos of him talking, and we'll watch a clip of that. You can see that he had a solo exhibition, his first solo exhibition at our museum. And what's really cool about CAM is that we like to highlight and show emerging artists, meaning artists that are on the rise and growing in their career. We have a lower level and an upper level, so a big gallery, and then we have a small gallery. And so in that smaller gallery, we like to showcase a lot of Houston and emerging artists. If you're interested in this PowerPoint afterwards, I shared the link with your teacher. So you're able to click on all of these hyperlinks. So all of these are clickable and they can lead you to some more resources if, say, Robert Hodge is someone that you're interested in doing their artwork. So let's look into his artwork. Here's a show. So the exhibition is based on a type of music in Houston called Chopped and Screwed. It's very similar to like the remixes that they do to cumbias. You know when they slow down cumbias? Does anybody know what is that called again, that kind of music? Anybody want to drop it in the chat? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what it's called.
Like cumbia rebajada?
I think so, where it's like slowed down, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that type of cumbia music that's slowed down, this artist, so this artist DJ Screw, not Robert Hodge, but the artist that is influenced by this exhibition, he slows down rap music, and that he did that in the 90s. So I'll drop his name in here and you can Google him and look him up. So DJ Screw is who all this work is inspired by, and this is Robert Hodge's work. So he made about 7 pieces for this exhibition, which is a group showing. And let's get some details. So what do y'all see? If you want to just drop in the chat what you see or what you think this is made of, or if you want to turn your mic on and tell me what you think. Does anybody know what this is made from?
Is it from magazines or
Almost.
it's a collage? Yeah.
It's a collage.
Posters.
Yes. Perfect. It's a collage. Okay. It's not per se the posters or magazines, but you're looking, you can see the shininess, right, of the material.
Yeah.
This corner. It looks a little bit thicker, right? Can we notice the shadows here? I'll go to another one.
Oh, records.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so these are made from the covers of record players. So the record songs, discs, that's what they're called. So those recording discs. And here we have him carving into these thick layers that he's creating, right? So here you can see Elvis Presley. Here's like someone from the 90s, some more people from the 50s. And he's mixing all kinds of genres of music and then putting on top of that lyrics from DJ Screw's songs. And so DJ Screw is like very hip hop and like about being from the neighborhood, from the hood, the barrio. And so here he says, don't play us for weak. And you can see the shadows, right? So you can even see how thick the pieces are, right? You can even see here the shadow of the shadow box itself that the framing is in. I have a detail shot that you can really see that. So an idea is to use collage materials, right? You can layer what's called ephemera, or like, you know, just something you find around the house. Maybe you've been eating a lot of one kind of food and you have the packages. If you save the packages of the food you've been eating during quarantine, maybe you can make something from that and create something new. So here he's like, right, he's cutting into, you can see how thick the work is. Here, we'll listen to him talk a little bit about his work.
My name is Patricia Restrepo, and I am one of the curators of the exhibition Slowed and Throwed, which is a 2-part interdisciplinary exhibition orbiting around the legacy of DJ Screw. This exhibition focuses on the DJ's process of chopping and screwing.
So this is everybody's
and
artwork.
Provides a lens of suggested viewing of contemporary visual artwork in relation to that process. Robert Hodge is one of the 15 visual artists in the show who produces work through strategies that parallel DJ Screw's methods. The material possibilities offered by vinyl record and cassette tapes propelled DJ Screw. His mixtapes were almost entirely limited to production on cassette because the record and compact disc were insufficient to hold his 100-minute mixes. Despite technological shifts in media formats, DJ Screw remained committed to DJing with vinyl and recording his mixtapes on cassette tapes.
And so
In their parallel processes,
I'm gonna skip a little bit so you can hear him talking about another piece that's not in this show, but I think is very similar and kind of seeing the inspiration for his work.
I made last year for David Shelton Gallery, and this work was based off all my work. Really, it's just I want you to have a certain connection with what an artwork feels like. And I grew up with, of course, like we all did, learn these technical skills, light drawings, composition, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you get to a certain point as an artist, you just realize, at least for me, that's not really what's important. I want people to come in and feel engaged with what I'm trying to say. And so all these works are from reclaimed paper from around the city. If you think about those gas stations, you see all those big movie posters, that's primarily the paper that I use for that. And so it's just a process of taking a paper, throwing it in a big bucket of water with glue and kind of making these thick layers of paper and then kind of carving these ideas and thoughts into them. And so this is a great Mexican proverb, which I love. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were the seeds, which directly connects me with SUC and what Screw did, like making this music that just connected, and it connected here first. And it was weird when I would go out of state and play it, people just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm. Which I think sometimes happens, right? When people play that slow down cumbia music, people also don't get it. So these are like new ideas being shared through music. And then this artist is inspired by that music. So there's that artist. And kind of in a similar manner that artist, and I'm just going to exit out of my, this really quickly. That artist is working in a medium. So that artist is using reclaimed paper. And in the similar way, this artist is also using discarded items. So if you have a pen and paper near you, we're going to do a little activity of just listing all the objects that you see in this video. And I'm just going to also add the sound element to it. Okay. And of course, it doesn't work immediately. Okay. had to let her hit the last high note on that song. So here, what did we see? What are some things, if y'all want to drop in the chat, what are some of the things that you saw in this artwork? And what do you think happens? I'll go back to full screen. Did anybody notice any specific things about the piece? There's a lot of baby carts, right? So there were baby carriages. Did they look new or old? Can anybody tell what this material is? Yeah, they seem old. So he found them on the street when they were thrown away. So this artist is from New York City. And so if you know anything about New York City, is that it's a city that 1 million people are living like on one island. So there's a lot of people. And so that means there's a lot of stuff and a lot of trash. I love that. Thank you, Carmen. There's a lot of trash, right, all over. And so Neri Ward is seeing things beyond it being trash, but instead as these items that can bring back memories to us, right? Maybe when you see the baby carriage, you can think about when you were a child and how when you're not a baby anymore, you don't need the baby carriage, and like what happens to that baby carriage. Also, it can have you think about what's really common in New York is people that are homeless, and they use the baby carriages to collect cans or carry their stuff because there's something with wheels on them, right? So it's kind of this idea of using discarded materials to create a new idea. And I think that can be helpful, especially when we're kind of stuck at home, for you guys to be inspired by what's around you and maybe what is in your yard or being discarded, and creating what this is called an installation. So what people are actually able to do are walk. So people can walk caminando right here. And so you walk around this. And yes, Amazing Grace is a part of this. So as the people are walking around, they hear the song. And you can tell, so here you can see some dancers here walking into the space. And so here you have the outer ring, which is whole baby carriages. And then what's in the inside are broken baby carriages. Can anyone tell what they're walking on? It may not be familiar to you guys, but maybe y'all know. Can y'all tell what this is? Anybody want to take a guess? And these are the same things, but all twisted up. It's definitely a material that a firefighter uses. What is a tool that a firefighter uses? It is fabric, yes. So the fabric is a really thick canvas that is the firefighter hose. So you know what they connect from the fire hydrant and they hold? It's all of those hoses that he's using. And he uses them multiple times in his work. So this is an installation shot. So it's very obvious here, right? Some keys that are lost and he attached them here. Back here, you can see these are actually baseball bats. And these are 3 separate pieces. And then here you can see the fire hoses again. This piece in the corner that's a circle weighs 2 tons. So 2,000 pounds. So if you think about the water hoses already being very thick and sturdy, that you're also, he's creating these pieces and kind of drawing, right, with these materials and recreating them. What does this say? What do we think? Now that you know about Neri Ward using found materials, what do we think we see here? Can anybody recognize what this is? I know it's a little bit different since we're from different countries, but this is something to do with America. Anybody notice what this text is? Ribbons is a good guess. What's something that we use every day, a part of our life that's kind of similar to ribbons? And every single person, no matter if they're a boy or a girl or anything, are using this. Well, I guess not everybody. I'll tell you why not everybody, but yes, ribbons is a good guess. So we just tell that it's a string kind of item. What's something that's like a string item that everybody uses every day? On the lower half of your body. Belts. A belt is a good guess. Not everybody uses a belt. Okay, let me say this. If you were wearing chanclas, you wouldn't have them. Oh man, what's cintas in English? Yeah, shoelaces. Okay, then cintas, the zapatos. Yay, yes, you're correct. So these are all shoelaces, spelling out the words "we the people." And "we the people" is the first line of the US Constitution. So here he's kind of having every person kind of represented. And this is huge. This was like the first thing that you would see. So let's watch this little brief video.
Mary Ward's "We the People."
Sorry, we're not going to watch the whole thing. But again, I will give you this presentation so you can watch the whole thing on your own.
On a daily basis. "We the People" is made of nearly 4,000 shoelaces that have been drilled and individually attached into the wall to form the outline of the words "We the People," of course, from the US Constitution.
Do y'all want to watch more about Amazing Grace? Because they have really good visuals of Amazing Grace. If I get 5 yeses, it's not related to Nike in any way, no. But you could make that connection if you wanted to. But I think definitely bringing up movement is a good idea. You know, if you brought up how we're all moving and on the go, and the shoelaces are what attaches our shoes to our feet so that we can keep going and go on any terrain. There's a lot of ideas then, right? When you take one simple item, like, you know, if we were to think about just our pencil and like, what does it mean to make this now an art object, right? What does it mean to then take a shoelace and say, this is art, right? So it's interesting. What's something that you can use that everybody is familiar with to then make a statement about artwork? And yes, I'll go ahead and play a little bit. So here's Amazing Grace.
In 1992-93, it consists of literally hundreds of baby carriages, strollers that he found across the streets in Harlem and in other places. The strollers that are in the very center are strollers that won't stand on their own. They're used to kind of prop each other up, and fire hose is used to kind of link them together. And you indeed get to walk over a kind of pathway through the work that's made out of other pieces of fire hose. One hears Mahalia Jackson singing Amazing Grace. Ward talked about being able to give the piece a sense of uplift, of taking something that could initially appear quite dark, maybe even somber, and giving it a different emotional valence.
So maybe there's even a way, right, for you to use music. So we just saw 2 artists that used music very differently, right? So one artist was just with no sound, but you totally understood that music was represented just by the visuals. And then another artist that was using actual sound then to help create a new idea about these objects. Now, and this artist, she's also from Houston, Texas, and is very unique. And we're going to watch a bit of her video. And I want you to take a list of all the things that she's doing. So all of the things included in this video, all are part of her artwork. So check it out. And that is the artist. Journey to the cosmic womb.
Like his dad's word.
Why don't you listen to their hearts and tell me what you hear?
All right, so what do y'all think? What did y'all see? Very Japanese culture. What kind of gave you that idea about Japanese culture? Or what did y'all notice? Like, so we see that it's a film and she's herself a character. So what are some of the things? She was playing with the jackpot, and then everything gets weird. Yes. What makes it seem weird? Did you notice anything? Is that what made it weird? Because you didn't recognize any of the characters? It is pretty different. And I think one of the reasons why it is very different in art form is because she's creating her own universe. So Ju Young is creating also paintings. She's creating these puppets. So here she is with her character Put Put. That's his name. He's an octopus. And she's making these three-dimensional sculptures. So you can see a sculpture behind her. And she's doing video work and also animation. If you notice that her characters are also animated. And the idea is that Ju Young is creating a whole universe that she relied on when she was a child. So she was adopted and she was raised in America, but she was adopted from South Korea in a white neighborhood. So everybody around her looked very different from her. And she was trying to understand her identity as an Asian girl in what she noticed was a lot of people that were blonde and blue-eyed and had really fair skin. And so she had her imaginary friends that she created. And then when she went into college, she started to paint this imaginary world. And slowly those paintings then became sculptures. So here you're seeing her exhibition, and she creates so many details. Like when I tell you that she knows every single character. So you can see Put Put again here. So Put Put's underneath, her name is Tanya. Yes, right? Yeah. Tanya here. And so she's kind of the main character and like the hero in this adventure. You can see her on this painting. She got lost in a vortex. So then all these other characters came together to save her and pull her out of the vortex. And then here they're on a dinosaur called Perennial. And so the dinosaur is covered, a Brontosaurus specifically is covered in all of these flowers, because the dinosaur itself has two genders. And so she's different during the springtime and different during the wintertime. And, Ju Young Che is coming up with all of these details. So within her artwork, it's really character building, right? And she likes to think about a very detailed imagined world. So the imagined world is called the cosmic womb. So here you can see kind of close up that these are made out of fabric. So here we have just some fabric, and she's creating these puppets. And so, yes, definitely telling a story. If you look at the image itself, this is kind of like the happily ever after moment, right? When the princess and her prince are on the horse, but instead in Ju Young Che's world, it's a dinosaur that she then is on with her mate, and they're going off into the sunset, right? A horse, yes. And so you can see that their friends are there. And then what's really cool is that all these flowers are made by people in Houston in the community. So she would actually welcome people to her studio to then create all of the small details of her project. And you can see in the background, her paintings are just as detailed. So it kind of looks like a what? What does this kind of look like? Anybody notice kind of the framework for this painting? And Spaciatano, that's her name. Animes, yeah. And comic books, right? So maybe even your project could be getting really detailed about a certain character. And obviously you can see that this is the bad person in the world. I can't remember their name. And she has a website, by the way, where she where no one else can see, but she can keep track of all the details of everything she creates, because it does get very deep in detail. So look, it says, Putt Putt makes a friend. So this almost looks like a magazine even too. So maybe you're playing with creating a character, and there's actually a video. We didn't create it with our museum, but another organization, she has a whole video where she talks about how to create an imaginary friend, and she kind of talks about that process. We can just watch a little bit.
By his connect. Well, he should have a sister, like someone to hang out with, and that's where Bernadette came in. I had noticed as of lately, a lot of my friends
you see all her puppets?
This kind of feeling of defeat. And maybe some despair, this idea of kind of hopelessness. And I thought, well, all this hopelessness must be useful for somebody. It's like they say sometimes that you can't have the lotus unless you have the mud. And I thought, oh, I'll make this really wonderful character. She'll be so lovingly wonderful. And she always wants to come be with you when you're having a hard time and eat up all of your despair. Shoot.
So you can think about even what that imaginary friend does, how they interact in the world, what's their purpose. All of that development is artwork. And so Ju Young Che is a good example of creating a story, creating a character, and then you can also make a physical representation of that character in a puppet form. This isn't a puppet, but it's as simple as using some fabric to create something. This is my little Halloween sock monkey witch. I love Halloween. So that's another idea. Using what's called soft sculptures. So, a sculpture doesn't have to be made out of stone or wood or out of a bunch of baby carriages. It could be a small soft sculpture, something that is then, put on display, and you want to think about how is that displayed. Those are kind of what it is, kind of entering in this kind of realm. In a similar material and in a similar way, our artist Cheryl Donegan is also creating a bunch of different materials. And she's a New York-based artist. She does video work as well, obviously very different than Ju Young. She does video work, and she also does upcycling of clothing. So what you see here is a jacket. Can you tell that? Can you see the jacket? So here you can see that these are what she considers her paintings, and Cheryl Donegan is working within clothing and really like a DIY do-it-yourself. So let's listen to her talk about her work.
For me, I've always really been attracted to DIY methods in my work. Starting out with the first videos I made, which were just point and shoot, I didn't even know how to edit. And so I kind of carried that over as I developed my painting practice. So whether I'm using popsicle sticks that I spray paint around, lately I've been involved in like really simple resist techniques that are derived from using washable glue. I've been involved in like upcycling, so I can transform a garment with just a pair of scissors. Part of the do-it-yourself is really in attachment to like the everyday world around me. And, you know, having kids is also a part of that for me. You know, the artwork that they make, them turning me onto social media forms that I never heard of, actually been really inspiring and has led me to places that I don't think I would have got to otherwise if I hadn't been a parent.
So I love that Cheryl Donegan involves her family in her work, right? So she mentioned that her students are teaching her about.
For me,
teaching her about, sorry, one of my things moved, so I just wanted to. Okay, I guess that's that. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Cheryl Donegan is using clothing. So let me show y'all the next picture. This is her on opening night. And so you can see she's creating these garments, and actually the fabric of the garment she created. So she's creating textiles, and that's a part of her artwork. And these are actually photos of an air conditioner. If you like, you know, the back of an air conditioner, people like draw on it. And she took photos of these and then sent it to like a website that makes you yards and yards of fabric. And then she's creating these dresses, these t-shirt dresses, and then upcycling them. So here you can see she's doing a really simple chain project. Here we can.
For me,
am I able to?
Always really been attracted to DIY methods in my.
You can't really see it, but you can see some of her video work back there too. And that's really what she's well known. I actually bought one of her dresses. So here's a photo of the two of us in her dress. And she really appreciated how I, DIY'd the dress that she had and styled it. You can see her also in her own clothes as well. So maybe it's creating an adornment, right? How we dress up our bodies also can be a way to tackle contemporary art. So making something that's wearable, or maybe taking some old clothes that you don't wear anymore and upcycling it and creating it into something new. And maybe you even think about like an idea that goes with that. And so, or maybe you're drawing on clothing, right? Those are some ideas. And she's also in the background here. Can anybody, y'all can see these works, right? These are what she considers her painting. She also is just like thinking about people that she loves and doing portraits inspired by them. So Q-Tip, Yoko Ono, Kamdara-san, these designers, these musicians. Q-Tip is a rapper. And you can see that she's doing a polka dot pattern and then just using glue, like Elmer's glue, real school glue, to then to fill in the fabric. So then when she puts paint on top of that, or dye, which she really uses dyeing ink, the ink doesn't go on the part where she drew the picture, if that makes sense. It's called batiking. And again, I'll share this presentation with your teachers, or I did share it with her so that she can reshare it with you guys. And if you're inspired by this, but yeah, y'all are very familiar, right, with drawing and painting as a form. And this is kind of having painting in a different way. She's hand dyeing the work. So it's like, instead of just putting paint on top of a canvas, she's having the paint penetrate the actual material. So then it becomes its own living thing and doesn't have to live on a canvas per se, if that makes sense. And lastly, and I know I have to talk pretty quickly, or actually we're on good time, about our last artist who is here featured, Annabeth Rosen. What do we see? What do we think this artist works with? What medium? Give us a guess. Clay, you are correct. She is a ceramist. Is it look kind of different than what we're used to? There's definitely not just pots, right? And you know, she loves that you don't know what they are because they are just abstract forms. So she loves just the material of clay and is really exploring what clay is and how you can manipulate clay. So each one of these are different clay pieces that then she's put together, what she calls bundles. So she's using wire, right? She has these similar stands and she's just seeing how these certain clay pieces that she's painted. Yeah, so many do look like bowling pins because they have that bulbous shape to them. They're very organic shapes. And then what do we see behind back here? What do we think these are behind the people standing? Do we think they go together, maybe? Yeah, you can see a lot of the ball shapes. Some of them even look like noodles too. They're not carpets, they're actually drawings. So sometimes Annabeth says this, that a drawing can happen really quickly and that the clay takes more time, right? If you're familiar with clay, you have to form it when it's wet and then you put it in a kiln and anything can happen when it's in that kiln. And she's open to all of those failures and those mistakes that can happen. Yeah, they look like messy sketches in a way, and that's because they're very organic. But if you look very closely, some of the tube shapes of this are the same tube shapes that she's been making. So I think with her drawing out things and kind of getting that motion of how to do her cylinders, then she's kind of doing that when she's working with the clay. She's also from New York City. This piece is called Bunny. Go figure. She says it looks like a bunny to her, and so she named it Bunny. And so as you can see here, you can see the kind of layers, like this is a separate piece, but attached here by a piece of wire to this larger piece. And then she's kind of just creating these really interesting shapes. And, you know, they're about the size of furniture. And in this exhibition, she was showing about 20 years worth of work. So you're kind of seeing all the variety of her work. Oh, this is not the greatest picture, but this is in her studio. And so you're kind of seeing like a drawing, right? So here's a drawing that she did in 2010. And then she made this art piece 9 years later. So sometimes these drawings are coming even before the sculptures. And so you can kind of see this is another picture of her studio and those work. So here you're seeing, right, them kind of individually laid out. And then she's working with what she will add. And you can tell on the pieces themselves that she's doing different kinds of glazes. And so this one, I included her as she's an artist working a lot with line. And I think there's a lot of interesting things that you could draw or create with the line. It's like a way to set up an idea, yes, and before she's making with clay, for sure. She says that she kind of makes them and then she'll go back and they to her, it's kind of organically like dancing between the two, but very often than not, these drawings are coming. And she's actually using clay to draw with. So that's where you kind of get these drippy looks on it. She's using what she uses to connect the clay together. And here, it's not the best picture, but you can see her hand, right? Where she's putting the pressure even of these glaze marks. And then you're seeing her just wrapping things together. So maybe you don't have access to making clay, but maybe there's a way for you to connect, right? Neri Ward and Annabeth Rosen. And maybe you're taking a bunch of pens and pencils and connecting them together somehow to create a new idea. Some of these artists, it's about the pretty, like what they're making. And most of these artists, though, it's about the idea, right? So I think if you have a strong idea about your work and connecting it to one of these artists, then you're gonna have the audience understand your artwork better as you explore what it means and what's value of it. So here we see another drawing of hers. And yeah, that's my presentation. Here is a whole page of resources from the museum that we have. So we're constantly doing programs. So you can see all these are all like conversations. These are actual activities that you can kind of be inspired by and make your artwork. So you can see here, and then there's all the instructions on how to do these activities here. Is there any questions that anybody has or anything that you wanted me to go back to? And I'll leave this up, so in case you want to check out more about the museum, or feel free to contact me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adrianna. I don't know if there is any question. If there isn't, we would like to take a picture of us. So if the students can turn on their cameras, please, for us to take this picture. We really appreciate it.
Hi, guys. Thank y'all so much for those that were brave enough. I know it's kind of hard talking about artwork sometimes, that you're like, I don't know the right answer, but the beauty of art is that we're creating the answers. And what's really cool about artwork too is that anybody can have any idea. So like, you know, any and all of your ideas about the artist's work are valid and important, because that's what the artist wants. That's what the artist needs, right? In a way, to have new ideas. I think Ju Young, the one who comes up with the puppets, she loves when someone tells her like, I don't think that puppet would have a boyfriend. I think that puppet would have, you know, like, you know, she's like things like that. She loves it. And she's like, oh, you know, because to her, they're real people. And she really sees them as that.
Okay. Los chicos, los que faltan pueden prender su cámara, por favor. Solo van a ser unos segundos. Chicos, si pueden prender su cámara, por favor. Ya nada más para terminar la sesión. Ahí va. 1, 2, 3. Listo. Muy bien. Bueno, I think this will be all for today. The rest of your classmates will get the recording of this session and also the information that Adrianna shared with us today. If you have any questions, you can contact her or you can contact us here at Marco. And you can also ask your teachers for things that you have any doubt about. So yeah, thank you so much, Adrianna. And thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day.
See ya.